Welcome aboard the Ghost Tram. Every passenger on board is a ghost. If you spot a living person, please report them to the conductor immediately. All passengers are kindly requested to ride respectfully and help create a harmonious riding environment for everyone. It was this very broadcast that drew all the passengers in the entire carriage right to me. As the broadcast voice sounded, passengers on both sides of the carriage simultaneously turned their heads to look at me. Their mouths hung wide open, and they asked in unison, "Are you a living person? I clearly bought a ticket home. What on earth is this ghost train?" Sitting in the middle of the second row, a young man wearing a windbreaker clearly hadn't yet registered what was happening. He let out a startled grunt, his eyes wide with panic. The passengers on either side, who'd been staring at me, suddenly stiffened and twisted their necks toward him upon hearing the sound, their vacant eyes fixed on him as if they were looking at prey. At the same time, their mouths opened and closed in unison, their voices dripping with greed. "Are you a living person?" The men's windbreaker jacket wearer paused for a moment, then said angrily, "Who are you guys cursing? Am I not alive? Or am I already dead?" His voice was loud, sounding especially clear in the quiet train car. No sooner had he finished speaking than he realized something was terribly wrong. The people sitting around him, rather, they should be called ghosts, suddenly fixed their gazes on him. Their previously expressionless faces slowly began to wear smiles, which grew wider and wider until their mouths split open in a grin. The man in the windbreaker let out a shrill, piercing scream, but it was already too late. The ghosts, drooling with anticipation, lunged at him all at once, like predators finally catching their long-hungry prey. They tore into his body with frenzied ferocity, devouring him in an instant. Blood flowed onto the seats and the aisle, yet it didn't spread. Instead, the train seemed to absorb it all. A few minutes later, the pool of bloody filth had completely vanished. I couldn't help but marvel. Once a living person revealed their true identity, the spirits feasted on flesh, and the train drank blood. Yet the division of labor among them was surprisingly clear-cut. After the few ghostly figures had finished dividing up what was left, their gazes, still lingering as if they hadn't quite gotten their fill, slowly fell back on me. Before I could even figure out how to blend in, I felt a gentle nudge against my shoulder from behind. A man dressed in a suit and leather shoes brushed past me, and instinctively, I turned around, but the car hadn't yet started moving. In an instant, countless passengers surged in, filling the space. Many were whispering among themselves, their expressions vivid and alive, indistinguishable from those of living people. Yet once they'd found their seats and settled in, the expressions on their faces quickly faded, the spark in their eyes vanished just as swiftly, and their entire beings seemed to be shrouded in a thick, deathly black mist. Inside the carriage, I was the only one still standing. The passengers entering from the rear seemed to sense something unusual as well. They all raised their heads in unison. Countless lifeless eyes turned toward me, as if asking, "Are you a living person?" I heard that if you type the 2 characters "NOBE" on your keyboard, and then keep tapping the first character, you'll find out exactly what others' behavior you dislike the most. Minays. You better not poke me, okay? So what's yours? Hey, let the story continue. If discovered to be a living person, they would be immediately eliminated. I clenched the ticket in my hand. It bore the following travel information. Passenger. Reserved seat number 13, carriage 6, Rovce. An hour ago, I arrived at the station. The line for security checks and ticket inspections went smoothly. Everything was normal. I still remember that the couple who boarded the train right before me were a mother and daughter. The little girl was wearing a white cashmere coat. Her left hand was held by her mom, while her right hand clutched a lollipop. The lollipop slipped from her grasp and fell to the ground. I picked it up for her, and she sweetly said, "Thank you, sister." I'd been standing behind them the whole time, but once we got on the train, I couldn't spot them anywhere, just as if 2 living, breathing people had suddenly vanished right before my eyes. This train is seriously off. Aside from that incomprehensible announcement, the entire carriage reeks of corruption. Large chunks of metal sheeting have fallen off the sides of the car, exposing rust-stained interiors. The floor is littered with dark brown stains. Every step you take feels disgustingly sticky and slimy. The lights overhead keep flickering erratically, as if the bulbs might explode at any moment. On top of that, There's a group of ghostly figures staring right at me, though their faces are expressionless. Their entire countenances seem to scream, "I want to eat you." This is definitely not a train heading home. I've probably stumbled into some supernatural, inexplicable, paranormal phenomenon, a kind of terrifying haunting, where one wrong move could leave you utterly annihilated, leaving nothing but ashes behind. The question is, why do these wandering spirits zero in on me so quickly? After recalling my actions since getting on the bus, I paused briefly to think it over before heading straight toward my seat. As expected, once I sat down, the stares that had been fixed on me instantly vanished. I'd guessed right. Those people had zeroed in on me precisely because I'd been standing motionless in the aisle, drawing far too much attention. My behavior was no different from that of the man in the Chongfeng Yi, who'd already been dead. The only difference was that he'd admitted he was alive, while I hadn't said a word yet. As long as I played the role of an ordinary passenger in a reasonable manner, they simply wouldn't notice me. There was a piece of paper on the seat, and I casually picked it up just as I sat down. After staring at the characters for a while, they seemed to come alive, gazing back at me intently through the paper, as if they were watching me closely. Things to know when riding in a moving vehicle. First, take your seat according to the ticket information, and do not change seats. Second, conceal your identity well. Don't let any creature discover that you're alive. Third, the train's final destination is Huangquan Station. If you disembark at the final stop, you'll be stuck in Huangquan forever. Fourth, please alight at the correct platform, according to your ticket information, before reaching the final stop. Fifth, do not attack other passengers on the train. Any act of aggression will result in the train erasing you from existence. Sixth, please don't do anything that aligns with the characteristics of a ghost. Otherwise, you'll be assimilated into one. There were still a few more rules, but the latter half had been torn off. I searched thoroughly, both in front of and behind the seat, but couldn't find them anywhere. My attention returned to the paper, and just after the sixth rule, I noticed a tiny line of handwriting in ballpoint pen, scrawled in an extremely hurried and illegible style, as if someone had written it in a desperate rush while fleeing for their life. This rule is fake. Only by acting in sync with the spirits of the dead can you avoid being exposed, and only then can you survive.